Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rekha HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Today I have a quick, I want to say quick, but an article to get into, right, dealing with Vice President J.D. Vance and how he's pretty much speaking against the war. All right, which we know that can ultimately just be a facade, but whether it is or not doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, prophecy is still being fulfilled. All right, which is why we have here, it's the book of Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. All right, these visions are the prophecies that the Lord has ordained, but at the end it shall speak and shall not lie, meaning it's going to come to pass. Right, and though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Right, because to us, it seems like, and especially to the prophets of old, right, it seems like these visions would have taken forever to come to pass. Right, you got to take account of the things that they were seeing. They were seeing things that would take pass in the present day. All right, you had the Apostle John seeing visions of of the future digital system and all of that. So you can imagine just how long they considered these things will come to pass, or the time. But though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry. So though it seems like it's taking long, all right, when it's really that time, it's going to be like that. All right, the prophets are going to start rolling in, one after another, some at the same time, But point is, all right, the Lord has ordained it to happen, and it's going to happen. Right, as we read through this article, you see why scriptures say that nothing can be done against the truth but for it. All right, as well as why scriptures also say that pretty much these devils, their tongues were going to fall upon themselves. Because as we read through the article, you see how, pretty much everything that's being said is just further proven, prophecy, further proven that the Lord is in control, and so on and so forth. All right. So this I was about to say the book, but all right. The title of the article here reads, Vance slams Israeli Prime Minister campaign to keep war going indefinitely and undermine him, in which this is definitely a facade, trying to act, trying to act like, the government or the U.S. isn't, really having their strings pulled by the Israelis by having the vice president, quote unquote, fight against it, which we can see through all of that, because scriptures say that this is going to happen. Right. But Vance slams Israeli Prime Minister campaign to keep war going indefinitely and undermine him. In a new interview on the world's largest podcast, Vice President J.D. Vance warned that elements of the Israeli government want to keep the Iran war going indefinitely and were pursuing an aggressive campaign to manipulate U.S. public opinion. Right, and we know, as pertaining to the book of Jeremiah, it's the book of Jeremiah chapter 49, around the 20th verse, is the 20th verse. That Israel, all right, the so-called small hats, were going to be the ones to draw America into this great war, into World War III. All right, which is what, this war at hand is a prelude to. It's like the undeveloped stage of it. All right, which is the war that's going to end all wars, because this war specifically is what the Lord is brewing to, bring judgment upon the nations, which we'll read that as well. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 49 verse 20, and it reads, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord. All right, the counsel of the Lord, meaning the plans that the Lord has devised, that he hath taken against Edom, and his purpose is that he hath purpose against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Now the least of the flock, all right, of the Edomites are the so-called small hats. All right, and they're referred to as the least because Esau as a whole is what? Is nothing. They're the basis of men. So the least of the flock, they would be the worst, the worst of the worst. Just where you have your small hats, man. And his purpose is that he hath purpose against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. All right. And who is he drawing out? He's drawing out America into this war to make both their habitations desolate. All right. Because in this war, this war is going to be the stage for Yahushai's return. Because in the midst of this war, this is when the Savior returns and, puts an end to the war. He fights everyone over there. All right. You can read that in Revelation, the 12th chapter, verses 7 through 9, 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, Revelation 17 and 14, the Revelation, the 19th chapter. All right. And various places throughout the scriptures. But the Lord is going to put an end to that war by fire. All right. And the Lord is going to have nukes and everything launched over there as well as America. So America is going to be completely destroyed due to the nukes launched by this war, as well as the fire from the chariots of of Yahushua and the angels. And the Holy Land, which is the land that the so-called small hats are in, our land. All right, that land is going to be destroyed too. That's where the war is taking place, over there in the Middle East. All right, in the Levant. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 9. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from the Most High out of heaven and devoured them. All right, and compassed the camp of the saints. What's the camp of the saints? Israel. Jerusalem, all right, the Holy Land, and the beloved city, and fire came down from the Most High out of heaven. All right, you read that in 2nd Ezra, 13th chapter, where it speaks about, the Lord, a flaming fire out of his mouth, something along those lines. But we'll just read it real quick. It's the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, start at verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. This multitude of the men are speaking about the different armies of these nations across the world, all right, that are going to be gathered over there in the Middle East, fighting in World War III. And in the midst of that, Yahushua is going to make his return. But behold, and he's the man that came out of the sea, all right, the sea representing the seas above, the skies. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not see. All right, in this great mountain, speaking about the large chariot that Yahushua had. He's saying how it was so big that he couldn't even see the edges. He couldn't see where the chariot started and where it ended. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Right, because that's the spirit that the Lord is going to put on these devils, is to try and fight against him. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand nor held sword, right? Because no one in their right mind would really try and fight against Yahushua at his return, seeing the God, the God-like power that he's coming in, or the God power that he's coming in, right? Scriptures say he's not going to meet them as a man, right? But he's coming in the power of the Almighty God Yahweh, all right? So yeah, you have to be out of your mind to try and fight against that, but they're still going to, because that's the spirit that the Lord is going to put on them. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. Now, he didn't literally start fire breathing, but at his command, right, the chariots pretty much let it rip. That's where the fire came down, and you're also going to have missiles, all right, launched during the war. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight. and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. All right, and this is what's going to cause what? And fire came down from the Most High of heaven and devoured them. All right, and that's going to cause the Holy Land to be destroyed, but that's going to be rebuilt by, the heathens in the kingdom as slaves to Israel. Verse 10, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. This devil is going into Esau, Edom, but specifically dealing with America. All right, where the beast and the false prophet are and shall be tormented day and night forever. Now, this lake and fire and brimstone is specifically dealing with America, the main place that's being hit by the nukes and the fire from the Lord. But it's going to be completely destroyed. All right, and never, rebuilt again. It's going to become like a desert. Completely uninhabitable forever. Where the beast and the false prophet are. The beast is speaking about pretty much the power structure of Esau, Edom, which America is a part of. But the other members are right. You have NATO and the EU. Those, Edomite nations. And the false prophet, which is the Roman Catholic Church, where stems pretty much the wine, all right, of Esau, the false religions, the false ideologies that Esau uses to brainwash, the people of this world, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Now, it's not that these things, all right, because it's not, you can't literally drop the Roman Catholic Church in fire, but at the destruction of America, all right, that's when you're going to have the fall of Esau's system as a whole, because the Lord is coming to do away with their power. All right, the Lord is coming to cast these devils out of heaven, as it reads in Revelation, the 12th chapter. So Esau's system, their structure, all right, their hegemony over the world is being taken down. All right, the world is going to be in new ownership. But going back to let's just go back to the article, right? I'll just grab more scriptures as they come to mind. But yeah, all right. Where were we? Vice President J.D. Vance warned that elements of Israel's government want to keep the Iran war going indefinitely and were pursuing an aggressive campaign to manipulate U.S. public opinion, going so far as to vilify Vance for his role in pursuing a diplomatic solution. In his nearly 3-hour interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, Vance also tried to gently distance himself from Trump's decision to join Israel in launching a war on Iran and said the White House had botched its communications regarding the Epstein files. There are some people within Israel's system, all right, so this is what? This is division, all right? And the Lord said that he was coming to bring division upon the earth. Now, again, this is more than likely a facade, that Vance is putting on to make it seem like America isn't being, dragged by the collar by Israel. But either way, division is division, all right? And division breeds destruction. The Lord didn't say, how the division was going to take place, but that he was going to bring division. And he also said that what? All right? If Satan's house be divided, it will not stand. It's the book of Matthew, the 12th chapter. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? All right. So if you're having divisions between the, Trump's cabinet, divisions between Esau, all right, that tells you that their kingdom is on its way out the door. All right. Division breeds destruction, which is fitting because when you actually think of dividing something, what are you doing? All right. You're breaking it down. And each time you break it down, those parts themselves get what? Weaker. All right. They grow smaller. Right. And that's exactly what's happening to Esau's kingdom. It's getting weaker. All right. And the Lord is going to deal that finishing blow when he returns. Scriptures say that I forgot how it was worded. The spirit of Egypt shall fail. Which America is prophetically, all right, Egypt. There are some people within Israel's system we know beyond a shadow of a doubt who are manipulating and trying to change American public opinion to keep the war going on indefinitely. All right. And this is exactly what the Lord said these devils would do. This is exactly what the Lord said Esau was going to do, was pretty much raise people's tension for this war. All right. So, you see how, again, nothing can be done against the truth but for it, and how these devils' tongues are falling upon themselves because they try to combat, the truth that we speak, but the words that they say affirm the truth that we speak. All right. So grab that first, and then we'll grab how they're raising tensions, right? I believe it's Revelation 16th chapter, but it was also in Revelation the 20th chapter. Let's get the book of Psalms chapter 64 verse 8. We can start at verse 5. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? All right, going into these elites, mainly the higher ups of Esau, Edom, all right, who pretty much laid traps and devised plans and so on and so forth to come at Salakia, to come at the righteous, all right, to come at ultimately those who believe in Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, all right. And it's the way that they do it, the world can't really tell, but you have to have the spirit. All right, there's certain things that we watch, certain things that these devils say that hit us different than it does the rest of the world, because we understand, all right, through the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, what their real goal is. They search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thoughts of every one of them and the heart is deep. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded. All right, and the scriptures liken arrows unto missiles, because the missiles, ultimately the nukes that are going to be used to destroy, America, used as a product of bringing down Esau's system, they're likened unto the weapons of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai. All right, the weapons of the Lord, they come out of his armory, as it reads in Jeremiah the 50th chapter and the 25th verse. Right, so the Lord, and that's another thing. All right, the Lord is using Esau to destroy himself, and that shows true power. All right, when you can get your enemy to defeat himself, man. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. All men shall fear and shall declare the work of the Most High, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, and trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. All right, but main point, their tongue falling upon themselves. And this is proof. Right, let's grab the book of Revelation, the 16th chapter, 14th verse. We can start here. We start at the 13th verse. Armageddon. All right, Armageddon is going into the end of the world. All right, and what takes place, or what causes that, right, is World War III, which it's the Lord's plan, his counsel, as we started off with, right, to bring that war to pass in order to enact judgment upon these devils, man. All right, let's actually grab that first. It's the book of, let's get Joel. It's the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. All right, Salakia. It's the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. And it reads, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, all right, the other nations, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. All right, so prepare for battle. Assemble yourselves and come. And the weak saying, I am strong. All right, that's these nations who, back then they wouldn't have dared, tried to come up against the U.S. and Israel how they do now. All right, Iran is one of them. The fact that Iran is at a war with America and they're holding their own, all right, not backing down, and then they talking heavy shit as well. That's them saying they are strong. Why? Because now they have the ability to launch a nuke. All right, or whether they get one from Russia, or they have their own. Either way, they can have that at their disposal now. So these armies have been strengthened. And that's just so not only for them to take down America, but if the armies of the world are strengthened and the Lord comes and easily does away with them, well, how much does that rebound to his power and glory? Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. All right. And in the Hebrew, it's Yahweh Shaphat, which means valley, all right, of the Lord's judgment. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. All right, in that valley of decision, as we read, or as we said, all right, is over there in the Middle East. But this is the Lord's determination. This is the Lord's counsel. The Lord's plan is to gather them up. And he's using Esau, all right, to gather themselves up into that pretty much kill zone, all right, and to enact judgment. So going back to the book of Revelation, the 16th chapter and the 13th verse, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon. Now these 3 unclean spirits, because a frog is unclean, is a representation of pretty much the 3 city-states that Esau uses, as means of operating the world. All right, you have the Vatican, which is the religious, all right, or the left-handed spiritual headquarters, if you will. All right, that's where you have the Roman Catholic Church, and from there stems all these, or most, if not all, these false religions and ideologies, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's one. And the next one you have London, which is their financial. All right, and what there's a famous saying, the money makes the world go round. Well, these devils hold all the money. So what do you think? How much power over the world do you think they have? All right, all of it. And the last one, all right, which is not, literally, stated to be a city-state, but it operates as one. All right, you have Washington D.C., which is their military. But it says here, out of the mouth of the dragon. Now the dragon is a representation of the pagan Roman Empire, which we know as pertaining to Revelation 20th chapter, or the book of Revelation, right, or the scriptures really. All right, is the power structure of Esau Edom. But the heart of that power structure back then, all right, because you have the ancient and you have the modern. The modern, as we read, is NATO, America, and the EU. But the heart of the one back then was Rome itself. And the heart of the current one, all right, which is also likened unto this dragon, is America. All right, the face, and out of the mouth of the beast, and that's where you will leave what NATO and the EU, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, as we read in Revelation the 19th chapter, the Roman Catholic Church. For they are the spirits of devils, all right, and altogether that's what the power structure of Esau Edom, the so-called white man, right? For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of the Most High Almighty. All right, so what these devils do is pretty much they are, using certain news and certain events, and then just doing certain things that, paying off certain people to have this happen and so on and so forth, to raise tensions for this war. All right, they want this war to happen because they need that pretty much that economic collapse on the world stage in order for them to bring in their digital system. All right, but really, this is the Lord's determination. All right, scriptures say that his determination is to gather these nations. As we read in Joel the 3rd chapter, the Lord wants them to come and try and fight in this war so that they can all be gathered for him to bring judgment. All right, so it shows you more how the Lord is the one controlling. Right, this is the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter, chapter 35. And it reads, and all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. Obviously speaking about the Heavenly Father. And no one can stay his hand. So no one can stop the counsel of the Lord or say unto him, what doest thou? All right, because he is the one in power. He can do whatever he wants. All right, even further, let's get the book of Isaiah, the 46 verse 10. Isaiah chapter 46 verse 9. Remember the former things of old, for I am the Most High, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning. That means that since the beginning, the Lord already had his counsel mapped out. All right, already had the plans for every single body on the earth. All right, everyone who's ever stepped foot on earth and so on and so forth, everything that's ever happened, the Lord has devised all of it. And that's why, as we read in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, the Lord can say that it will not tarry, it shall speak, because the Lord has appointed a time where it's going to come to pass, where it's going to speak. You know, this is basically his movie, man, and everything's just playing out. That's why the Lord is able to give prophets visions, right, that where they can see future prophecies, because really it's already happened. The Lord has already said it to happen, just in the future. All right, it just hasn't happened yet. A prophecy is something that's set. We just have to get to it. Remember the former things of old, for I am the Most High, and there is none else. I am the Most High, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from the ancient times the things that are not yet done. Whew. Saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. All right, and that's exactly what he's doing. And that's exactly why he's using Esau, as we read here in Revelation, the 16th chapter and the 14th verse. What? That who are manipulating and trying to change American public opinion to keep the war going on indefinitely. The Lord got these devils doing that, man. He's got them spirits of devils working miracles to get the kingdoms of the earth to gather into this valley. All right, let's actually go back and finish reading that. So again, right, everything these devils speak is what is proving prophecy. The same thing that, you know, they're trying to fight against. You can do nothing against prophecy but for it, man. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of the Most High Almighty. And as we read in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, is going to reiterate pretty much here in the 15th verse. Behold, I come as a thief. This is red letter, Yahweh Shai. He's the one returning in the power of the Most High and himself. All right, Luke 9:26. In his glory and of his fathers and of the holy angels. Roughly paraphrasing. Behold, I come as a thief. And that's why it said, believe in Joel, that it said, suddenly the Lord's coming as a thief. He's catching these devils off guard. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they shall see his shame. All right, those who are patiently serving Yahweh Ba'ashem Awashai and keeping watch on his return. All right, not saying that the Lord delayeth his coming and therefore, you know, pretty much operating as those in the world. All right, walking in darkness. No. All right, we have our spiritual eyes open, physical eyes open, you know, and we're watching, waiting, and serving patiently until the day of our Lord's return. Verse 16, and he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, all right, in which in Hebrew is actually Har-Magadwan, in which Har means valley or hill or mountain, all right, and then the Har-Ma, which is of or the Gad means troops, and the Wan makes that troops plural. Har-Magadwan, valley or mountain of the troops, all right. And when you deal with Jerusalem, well, not just Jerusalem, but over there in the Levant, it's a mountainous region, you know. But obviously the place that they really would be in is probably the more flattened ground, right, for war. But either way, that's where that you know, the Lord is coming to tread the winepress. one of the places, let me say that. So continuing here, to keep the war going on indefinitely, again, not towards any objective, all right, which is a lie. We know the true objective, but let's say that, he's right. They don't even have an objective. They just want to keep this war going indefinitely because that makes sense, right? Well, if they don't have any objective and they want to keep it going indefinitely, does that not further prove that the Lord is the one controlling them? All right, because we know the Lord has an objective. So if they don't, why is this going on? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. The Lord has said it to go on so that he can judge these devils, man. Let's also grab one more on that. Right, we read Daniel 4 and 35. We read Isaiah 46 and 10. Let's get the book of Psalms chapter 19, verse 21. Proverbs 19 and 21. Salakia. There are many devices in a man's heart. All right, your heart going into your mind. Nevertheless, so there's many plans and thoughts in your mind. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord shall stand. So, this is another scripture that proves that we don't have free will. All right, no matter what you think you're going to do. That's why scriptures speak about saying, Lord's will, I can do this. Lord will, we can do that. Right, that's why brothers say that. Because it's not according to what we want or what we want to do, but what the Lord has ordained for us to do. Right, and it's the same thing with these devils. No matter what thoughts are in their heads, the Lord is controlling their every move, man. How can you beat? How can you beat a chess master when you're not even the one playing? It's impossible. It's impossible, literally. So going back here, Vance said, noting that the attacks have not only been directed against U.S. policy, but against him personally. He directed Rogan and his audience to read a recent Time article describing the big budget mechanism Israel has sponsored to try to shore up Republican support for the war and for Israel. Again, the spirits of the devils, It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country. Vance was referring to former Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale, who now runs a communications firm called Clock Tower X. He is also chief strategy officer of Salem Media Group, a conservative multimedia conglomerate. Last summer, Israel started paying Parcel's firm 1.5 million a month to recruit 100 pieces of digital content every month to be shared across multiple social media platforms. Controversially, Parcel also promised the integration of narrative messaging into Salem Media network properties and aligned distribution channels. As for how to end a war that's even less popular than the Vietnam War, as at its worst polling, Vance defended diplomacy and ridiculed hawkish critics whose grand plan is only to bomb them to oblivion. Right, in which we know that this war ain't ending anytime soon. And even if it was to end, right, it wouldn't really be an end. If anything, it'd just be like a pause, a hiatus, all right, for things to pick back up. And it seems that every time they pick back up, it's worse than before. Right, that can only happen so many times before it's the worst it's ever going to get. Trump has now been threatening to go on a rampage against Iran's bridges and energy infrastructure if the country doesn't bend to his wishes. Vance echoed the wisdom of many military and geopolitical observers who lampoon the idea that the U.S. military can conquer any country, much less once that's and look, all right. Vance echoed the wisdom of many military and geopolitical observers who lampoon the idea that the U.S. military can conquer any country, much less one that's as large as Western Europe, using only air power. You can bomb them, you can take away their radar, you can take away some of their drones and some of their missiles, but it's just too easy to fire at ships in the strait. So you've got to actually be willing to talk and to try to figure out the problem. Unless You put boots on the ground. All right, and that's what it's ultimately coming. That's what it's ultimately going to get to, as we just read in the book of Joel. All right, the Lord wants to gather these devils, man. All right, which is why no Jake should be trying to join these devils military, which you shouldn't be trying to do that anyway. All right, but you're pretty much cooked if you're in the military, literally. Right, you're going to be fried. With each passing week and month, the popularity of the war on Iran looms larger and larger where Vance's 2028 presidential ambitions are concerned. Vance has been using interviews to delicately... Alright, let's jump through this. In April, portrayed Vance as a skeptic who warned least regional chaos and involved a high number of casualties, damage to Trump's coalition. 5 months later, are dead, more than 400 wounded, more than squandered. The U.S. persons defeated. Strait of Hormuz is largely closed. Fuel prices have soared. A global economic catastrophe lurks. Right? And knowing this, these devils still want to keep the war going on indefinitely. Why? Because this is what they want. More importantly, it's what the Heavenly Father wants. And the Iranian people have rallied about their government. Given the war has turned into such a fiasco, it's not clear how much credit Vance will get for having been anything less than a zealous opponent willing to publicly challenge the war from the start, which is definitely a facade. Regarding the Epstein files, Vance disputed the notion that the Trump administration sought to hide anything from the American people, instead attributing the controversy to poor public communications about the files. We absolutely screwed up the comms on the files, Vance said. We just did. But do I think the reason we screwed up the comms is because we were trying to hide something? No, which that's a devil for you, bro, because that's complete bullshit. And the files told that, right? They had everything to hide, right? They tried to hide the fact that the entirety of the U.S. government, all right, is a bunch of weirdos, which we already knew, right? And that information has been going out for years. But the proof, the solid proof, why would you not try and hide that? Come on now. He faulted then U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi for having overstated, but the fact that it came out was what? That's the will of the Lord. All right? The scriptures say that, damn, I forgot how it was worded. Let's see. Is it Matthew, the 12th chapter? No. Hidden. Here it is. It's the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Well, let's get this in the NLT. Every nook and cranny of Eden will be searched and looted. Every treasure will be found and taken. All right, it's not really what I was getting at, but the hidden things being sought up. All right, the Lord revealed or is revealing these devils more and more. All right, scriptures say that shame, roughly paraphrasing, shame shall be shown instead of glory. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. All right, so the Lord is revealing these devils, all right, revealing America, all right, really Esau, to be the devils that they are. How much longer? All right, finish this out. Though he stopped short of saying Epstein was working for Israel, Vance emphasized Epstein's links to both U.S. and Israeli intelligence agencies. He clearly had connections to the highest levels of American intelligence. He clearly had connections to the highest levels of Israeli intelligence, Vance said, later adding, I've asked whether there were documents connecting Jeffrey Epstein directly to our intelligence agencies or anybody else's, and the answer is no. But if that stuff existed, it wouldn't exist in 2026. Here's the full interview. Yeah, a bunch of lies, but right. So yeah, man, we see how the Lord is really pulling the strings, as he's always been doing, but these devils themselves are just making that more adamant, you know. So we're almost out of here, and all we need to do is just keep serving the Lord, keep watching, all right, keep the prayers up, you know, and endure until the end. Be patient. But with that, I'll leave that off there. Lord's will, this video was edifying, uplifting, and or informative in some way, shape, or form. And once more, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect.